Yes, thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, we are back again, and today I'm just going to be answering a few questions I have been asked by some of my friends. Someone asked me about roles in the music studio, the professional music studio. Many people, I came to realize, actually many people don't know that the music studio has way more roles than just being a producer or being a actually generally as being a producer. Actually many producers also even don't know that there are so many of these roles that are subdivided. um I've had the experience of being in many studio spaces that people um don't know the kind of role they play in the studio, or the what kind of duties their job description kind of entails. So today I'm just there to clear the air a bit. And for those, if you feel like I haven't added your role in there, you can just feel free to tell me so that we see how we can work on that. But just going straight away, as I've said, we're exploring varied professions in a professional music studio, or jobs specifically. So directly we are going to start with um it's a very simple role. People tend to dismiss it so much. This is a beat maker, a professional beat maker. As you can read there, this is usually the person who comes up with melodies, drum patterns, and loops. Generally, the beat makers don't care about the whole song in general. Their work is to just come up with, as I've said, beats. So if they have 8 bars of a loop that sounds good, definitely his or her work is done. So as I remember, as I said in one of my previous videos, we've noticed in the industry there has been a rise in beat makers, specifically in the drill, hip hop, and drill, which, okay, it's a subgenre of hip hop. So we have drill, trap, we have afro, amapiano. There are so many of them that have come up lately, and actually there are so many platforms that are coming up to support the people who do that. We have the biggest, which is BeatStars. I've seen many beat makers on that platform. So it is a very clear role in studio. You can actually just go studio, do an 8-bar loop, get paid, and leave. The people who are really good at doing that, it's actually a very serious job, especially with the growing industry. It's something that needs to be considered. Then next comes a very, very important role. We have the music producer. Now, I've had a bit of argument with so many people on this. People just assume that the music producer is one who does everything, or if someone has put in a mic for you to record, that's a music producer. Not really. You see, the role of a music producer generally varies, but in this case, in the normal context, it's actually quite wide, because a music producer is one of the only people in the studio who generally has to be able to maneuver around almost all the roles comfortably. But generally, they just oversee and direct recording projects for musical artists. Their roles may vary by project, but commonly they help artists choose materials and adapt arrangements, coach them in the studio, select and hire side musicians, work with the recording engineer, and weigh in on decision about mixes. So you, as a producer, generally you don't even have to be the one sitting on the machine. All your work is to direct. That's all you do. You don't have to be very good with the softwares. You don't have to be very good, even sometimes in playing, as in so many cases. But generally, you need to be able to at least be able to play most of these roles so that you can direct effectively. So the work of the producer is to direct, and is in charge of just generally overseeing the whole project. So this misconception unaenda studio just because msee ameshika mixer ama ameshika mouse na kona machine hapo, anaweza weka microphone and assume to any producer. That's actually very wrong. You have to be able to oversee. That is actually the creative side of a producer. Then next we have a very, very very vital role. Let's just go there. This one is also one of the most underrated. This is a sound engineer, also known as an audio engineer. The work of this person is to deal everything that deals with the mechanics of recording, mixing, and reproducing sound. They don't perform. They don't produce. They're just experts who deal with the mechanical and technical support. So in these terms of sound engineering, we have three specific fields. We have the recording engineers, the mixing engineers, and mastering engineers. All these three are very different people, and all these three are very different roles. Just because you are a very good recording engineer doesn't mean you'll be a very good mixing engineer. Doesn't mean that you'll be a good mastering engineer. You have to specialize. In reality, in the Kenyan industry, there's a bit of a gap in terms of specialization, but it's actually growing very fast. But it's a very serious role, because a recording engineer, the work of a recording engineer has to deal with all the mechanical aspects of recording. No mixing, not even a premix. Their work is just to record. That comes to deal with the mic setup, positioning. They come to deal with creating sessions. They deal with patching, a very important aspect in studio. The patching and the connections, the cabling and everything. So, and then a mixing engineer, the work is to just process the audio signals that have already been recorded. And on this other side, a mastering engineer, the work, simply put, is to just prepare music for distribution. That's what it is. That's simply what it is. So generally, you can find yourself, you land in one of those fields or two, but it's very rare to find yourself you can be able to do all three comfortably and do them perfectly. That's why it's important to outline the roles so that people can actually play them for a good so that we can have good sound. The one reason I've noticed Sound Yetu ya Kenya kidogo has a big problem is because one person wants to do everything. I've been a victim. I'm working on that, because people generally, hawataki kulipa. People don't want to pay the cost, but in reality, that's how it should go. You need to have all. So far, we've mentioned the beat maker, the music producer. We've mentioned the sound engineer. In this, we have 3 sound engineers. We have the recording, mixing, and mastering. So far, we have gone through 5 people, and we are yet even to get to one of the most important roles in the studio. Okay, so next, we are going to talk about, and this one, I've come to realize many people fall in this category, but they don't know, and they just assume because I've been called in studio, I'm playing, I'm also a producer. Wrong. You're a session musician. This person works mainly in the recording and broadcast industry, recording commercial audio, film, soundtracks, music for adverts, jingles, television, signature tunes, incidental music, and music for radio. Their work is to just play or sing. You're a session musician. What you've been called to do, there is no creative aspect of what you're doing. You're just being called to be directed on what to do. And in Kenya, I've also noticed many session musicians, just because they are called, they assume they are the ones who have the creative, what do you call it? The creative, looking for the right word, imenipotea kidogo. They more or less like they have a creative upper hand in the music, or a creative role. Your work is to play. The person who has all the creativity put down, that is the producer. Whatever the producer decides should go in the music, that's what goes. Doesn't matter how good you are. In fact, this producer, you might be better than the producer as a session musician. But if you want to be paid, you want to pay your bills, what's the first thing you do? You have to learn. You are not the creative part. You are just the supportive part. That's your work, okay? Session musician. So you can be a guitarist, violinist, saxophonist, trumpeter, vocalist, tenor. You are a tenor, you are a bass, you are an alto soprano. Doesn't matter. You are a session musician. Your work is to come and just put your input according to how you've been directed. Now, next, we have a vocal coach, something that is also underrated in the industry. A vocal coach, generally, as you can just read there, they help the clients develop personalized warm-up routines, use exercises to improve their clients' range, breathing, work on articulation, projection ability, or provide other specialized instructions in vocal techniques. Now, something that is underrated in Kenya, there is a need of serious vocal coaches. I've actually seen so many of them come up on TikTok. There's one of them, I love following him so much. I've actually forgotten the name. But he teaches well, and people generally have not acknowledged the fact that he's actually a very good vocal coach. That's their work. And then many artists assume that they don't need vocal coaches. Believe me, if all the big artists in the world are using vocal coaches, you have no excuse. Many a times when you see people like Christina Aguilera go in studio, we look at Taylor Swift, we look at Rihanna, Beyonce. If Beyonce, one of the gods herself, is using, vocal coaches, who are you? So respect the vocal coaches, because without them, generally some of them even end up being what we call vocal producers, because their work is to ensure the artist can produce vocals needed for the music, because different styles need different techniques. You cannot sing reggae the same way you sing jazz, or the same way you sing R&B. All of these have different touches. Okay, shows that this is also a very important role. Moving on swiftly, we are going. Sorry about that. We are going to a very vital role now. Here, this is where there is a bit of a bone of contention to pick with many people. The songwriter. People don't know that this is actually the person, one of the people who has like the most important role in any piece of music. A songwriter, as you can read there, writes the words and music for songs, including songs for recordings, advertisements, jingles, theatrical performances. We hear their work every day, yet most of them remain anonymous, even if the performer is famous. Many songwriters also, there are songwriters who perform their own songs. A good example is Ed Sheeran. A very good songwriter performs his own song that is Outside. We have Ed Sheeran. We have people like Ryan Tedder. We have, in Kenya here, we have people like Bien, Polycarp. We also have others, like in the gospel sector, we have Pitson, one of the best songwriters. Now, generally, people don't know that songwriters, they own majority. If someone has pitched a song to you, majority of the time, they own almost majority rights in the music. And we'll come to deal with those issues of rights and licenses. It's a very important thing that many young artists are missing out on, and they're making many mistakes. But for now, the songwriter is very important, because without them, that song can't come. It really won't stand, Yes, and many artists in Kenya, this one goes to you artists. Just because you can sing well doesn't mean you can write well. And just because you can write well doesn't mean you can sing well. As it is seen, it's very common in the industry. Now, there are people who just assume because he can belt a tune and is Andy Kangoma. It's very wrong. And so, which means you need to respect the songwriters. And songwriters, you need to come up more, write more music, pitch to labels. It's practically a business. Just pitch to labels, talk to them, and see if you've written a music. And generally, for a songwriter, you have to have a basic idea of production, which means you can be able to record in your home, which means you need like practically a home studio. You record vocals, and you put in your guitars, your piano, in case it is needed. Yeah, these ones, generally, their work is to create demos, to create perfect demos. Okay, yeah. The next role, this one now is where almost everybody falls. We have the recording artist, as we said, a musician who performs a musical composition or a song in a studio setting or a studio-like setting for purpose of recording, releasing them to the public. A recording artist can be singular, which means an individual artist, a band, or even a symphony. Many artists are generally, they don't know where they fall between performing artist and recording artist. Most of them, they tend to fall, especially in the industry in Kenya, they tend to fall within the two spaces. I will also come out in the next video. I'll be outlining the specific roles in a live music gig or a live recording, so that you can be able to learn all these other things. But a recording artist, your work is in studio. And also, just because you are a good recording artist doesn't mean you are a good performing artist. Please understand that, because these two are very different roles. You have to learn them. Doesn't mean you can't be. Yes, you can be, but just because you're good in one side doesn't mean you're good in the other. You, when it gets to stage, you can actually be very good. You are lively, you kill the performance, but when you get to studio, you cannot at all um, give the song the life that it needs. Okay, so learn that it's a very important thing that you need to take seriously in the industry as an artist. Learn your vocals, learn everything, learn how to songwrite, learn to produce. But once you specialize, you can learn these other things to just be able to grow your skill. And for now, as I'm ending the video, those are just some of the important roles that are played in the music studio. So I'm just hoping as we keep going, the more ideas will keep coming and we'll help each other. But for now, learn those roles as an artist or as an engineer, as a musician. Find the one that suits you. Go to a studio, pitch yourself as a business. Look for, the industry is growing very fast, and even producers, stop hoarding everything. Don't be the one to do everything. Generally, there will be what we call saturation. Your mind is so saturated with ideas and sounds, so generally you will find, as is also common in the industry, you'll find different pieces of music written by different people almost all sound the same, because it's the same person doing the beat making, the production, the engineering, and then doing the distribution. Be very careful. But for now, thank you for tuning in. I hope we'll meet in the next video. And for now, thank you and be blessed.